Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Sam, Melodeath from Chile, with some beautiful, colorful guitar riffs. I'm always down for good guitar riffs, and Melodeath is a genre that has treated me better as given by the melodic element in Melodeath, melodic death metal. Let's dive into this. We have 9 minutes ahead of us from INANNA. The track is called Beyond Time and Memory. Okay, that's a bit more brutal than I was expecting. I'm warming up to it. Very fast 3. With the blast beats and the constant 16th notes, kind of indistinguishable from black metal at the moment. I'm hoping things chill out soon. Okay, that's a sharp turn. A very, well, not a very slow, but a much slower chord. Back to 3. Love the cymbal work here, very bright. That type of slowly fading away vocal on a harsh, it's always going to crack me up. So we do have some cool dyad movement here with the 2 guitars doing different things with their constant 16th notes. Okay, slightly funky syncopated guitar stuff there. or sorry, not guitar, drum stuff. It's interesting how quiet the guitars got. The drums are so powerful in this section. A little bit of rising victory, positivity. It's a brighter, more optimistic sound right here. Although that might just be that everything prior has felt aggressive to me. So even the thinnest amount of light will be blinding at this point. Yeah, cool. Not just a timbre change, not just bringing in this wavery sound, but also bringing in dynamics to the performance. Little volume swells. Excellent bass work too, dang. I love the syncopation on the drums, bringing the cross-sticking to change up the timbre of the snare. You still have a bit more of that brighter guitar tone from the acoustics underneath. The distorted on top. Great melody here. Yes. A little bit of a tempo increase while focusing on the brighter side, hitting the bell of the ride cymbal here. Very pitchy sounds. I'm not a big fan of the treble on these guitars. I like what's being played though. The diodes are very cool. Okay, yeah. We've evolved the melody into this new idea. This feels like a natural extension of where we've been, despite being so distant from the lows in the midpoint. It's also quite harmonically different from the death metal stuff at the beginning. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. I'll be totally honest. I was a little worried. Almost 4 minutes into that track, and it is aggressive, it is brutal, and it has the same issue I have with black metal, which is just sort of a lack of rhythmic um, dynamics of contrast. It's just all 16th notes all the time, play fast, drum fast. You know, we had a little bit of variation. The guitars might slow it down a little bit, but it was just such an aggressive start. And I'm glad it's going to sound bad. I'm glad I was forced to finish it because this is easily a track that I might have given a couple of minutes to see what it develops into. And then, yeah, dude, 3 minutes in, I'm not enjoying myself. Why would I stick around? You know, time's fleeting. I gotta make the most of it. Let's put something else on. Unfortunately, that means that, you know, sometimes I'd miss a gem like this because the beauty is hidden at the end. And I really love what happened there. The entire mid to ending was phenomenal. And no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say it upsets me that they can make such gorgeous music and chose to write the first half of this track. But, you know, they've got fans. This style of music has fans. I'm not gonna, it's just not for me. I'm not the audience for that super aggressive, brutal stuff. I just need some and it was the first thing I talked about too. We get to the midpoint, we bring in the acoustic guitars, and the first thing I talk about is dynamics. We have these two notes. It's two notes in a pocket of space, and two notes in a pocket of space, and these two notes do this quick, like, rising and falling. Wow, 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 wow. And kind of like volume rise to the peak of the note, slide down a little bit, volume rise a little higher to the peak of the second note, and then bring that down. It's a rising and falling action just within two notes. Right there is a drastic change from the every note is at the same volume constantly that we saw in the first half of this track. And I picked up on it so quickly. It was refreshing to hear. And yeah, I suppose that that's definitely something that could be playing into this track. Maybe there is something about the lyrical themes where we need all of this aggressive weightiness in the opening to really have the impact in the middle point. Now, I'll say I could have enjoyed just 5 minutes onward. I would have been fine with just that song there. But I, you know, definitely, I lose some of the impact and emotional journey by skipping the beginning of this song. So, you know, as much as I say I'm not a big fan of the first part, I understand its purpose and I understand that it can have artistic qualities, that a song is more than just the notes. There's meaning, there's story to them. And if you I mean, it's like removing a few chapters at the beginning of a book because it moves slow. Just get to the good stuff already. Yeah, I mean, art doesn't work that way. Music's the same way. I mean, music is art, so of course it works the same way. But yeah, so we get some dynamics here in the middle. This was excellent. And not just dynamics of volume either, but layering and timbre, atmosphere. We had a completely shifted harmonic quality here. The chord progression, the chord qualities, the progression qualities, the emotion that was being represented here is drastically different from the first half of this track. And I will accept fault for this. When I hear stuff like the first part of this track, all I hear is aggression. The chords don't really say much to me because they're delivered in such an aggressive way. So even if I could get past the fuzz, because I'll be honest, some of those moments are really compressed down and I was hearing white noise and not chords. But I mean, even if I could hear the chords, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is an aggressively sad moment. This is an aggressively angry moment. This is aggressively happy because it's just hitting me as brutality. So that's definitely the feeling I get from that, regardless of what the actual chords are saying. Like if we put those same chords on a piano or something, I'm going to get something very different out of that. But here, there's almost a somber sense of awe. It is melancholic, but there's something about it that's almost profound. We have the guitars layering up here. The bass comes in and supports it. Wonderful bass line here. Absolutely beautiful idea. Could have used a little bit more presence to the bass. It was kind of muddy and undefined, but I could still make out what was being played. It was quick. It was gorgeous. Very technical. I enjoyed that. And the drums, they give us this nuanced take. Very different from the hit everything on the drum kit as fast as possible. No, that's reductive. But it does feel like that at times. It's just blast beats, right? 16th notes. Just keep the energy going. Just keep that sound going. Hammer it home. Kind of literally hammer it home. And we shift that for something delicate and nuanced. Syncopated ideas pop into here. We have this really great beat that shifts from more straightforward focus on downbeats to focusing on offbeats and dancing around the downbeat. Lots of light cymbal work in here. We've shifted from a snare and bass focus to something that looks more at the lightness and color of the cymbals. We've also shifted away from hitting the snare directly, getting a very sharp crack, for something a bit lighter, a cross stick, which is basically laying the stick across the snare and picking it up lightly and slamming it down, or in this case, gently tapping it against the rim, which comes up a little bit as a lip over the drum head. And it's just a nice lighter sound. You tend to find it in lighter sections of music. And this was just a gorgeous moment to start with. I was honestly afraid we were going to get this cool thing for like a minute, and then the metal was just going to come back in and grind our faces into dust. And no, that didn't happen. They stuck with it and grew it and evolved it. The melodies here were gorgeous. The two guitars working together, absolutely loved what they were doing. It was expanding on this, I say like profound melancholy. I don't know if those words combined fit, but it is a bit more somber, maybe even sobering, a stark realization at something large. Realizing one's place in the world comes to mind, but I think that's just because what I think about these days, and these emotions tie into that really well. But there is a small grandness. Does that make sense? How wonderful everything is, how small large things can feel, and how large small things can feel. How small. Anyways, the inverse. I don't know if I said that correctly or not. The world can feel so small, and yet our lives can feel so big. And how that, I think, grounds people. Humility, humble. Putting things into scope and perspective. That's what this moment really reminds me of. Now, I'll say where they go with this, that doesn't follow along with that feeling much at all. We have these beautiful melodies and we have a gorgeous solo. We start to ramp things up. The drums open up. Then we eventually put an electric guitar solo on top of the acoustic guitars. And this was just a beautiful pairing of timbres. Absolutely loved that. The drums opening up, shifting to the snare drum head. So we don't have that light tapping of the cross stick anymore. We actually have the full snare tone. And still though, working with these more nuanced, delicate, rhythmic ideas. Granted, not playing so delicately anymore. keeping up the intensity, hitting the drums harder to match the electric guitar, but still not focusing on aggressive caveman drumming. There's a bit more delicate rhythmic ideas here to create something a little bit more creative than just constant attack mode. And I felt it. You know, we're ramping up. We're going to come back to the metal. We're going to bring this song full circle. And we do, but not in the way I expected. Because the cool thing is, like I had mentioned, we shifted harmony pretty hard there in the middle. We went from something quite a bit straightforward, aggressive metal into this more nuanced, emotional vulnerability. What happens when we bring the metal back? Are we just going to shift back to the aggressive stuff? And we don't. We bring the full metal band back. We even bring back the more aggressive drumming. But we keep the chord progressions, harmonic work, and melodic writing from the middle of the track. And this was absolutely worth sticking around for. This transforms all of the song. A beautiful point right here where the more aggressive metallic side and the lighter, more somber side come together to form something aggressively profound, more like a weight, a heaviness than an aggression or an anger. It's simply something that has a lot of force. But it still sounds profoundly melancholic. We bring in the harsh vocals here as well. We wrap up the song on a high note before pulling the classical inversion of coming up to a tension, having a small break, a couple of beats of silence, and then bringing in the final resolving chord, but here shifting back to the acoustic instrumentation for a very, very light resolution. I thought that was cheeky and I enjoyed it. Very well done, keeping me on my toes throughout this entire track and ending in a memorable way. So, like I said, I'm glad I stuck with this. I was worried at the beginning, and you know, some technical playing there, sure, but colorful riff writing and guitar work, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's not what I would call colorful, but you know, that's a subjective thing. The whole point, well, I don't know if it was the point, but my experience here was that I kind of let my guard down. I was like, well, this is just death metal. A little more flowery than most, but you know, it's still very aggressive. Same problems I have with black metal. All right, Bryan, we just got to ride this out. It's only 6 more minutes. You know, see if there's anything interesting popping up. And I let my guard down and they decimated me with beauty. Absolutely phenomenal experience with this. Oh man, let me check out some lyrics. Okay, beyond time and memory. It could capture a lot of things, and I think some of what I spoke about certainly aligns with this, but they take it in a very different direction than I did, which was profound, humbling. This is about cosmic horror. This is about the insanity of knowing the truth of things, which does present a vastness. It is, I suppose, profound in some way, but I don't know about humbling too much. This is more about the destruction of the psyche than anything else, which I think works well with that crushing weight at the end, bringing the metallic section back into the track. It talks about someone whose eyes are lost in the fog of thoughts and traveling through insanity. They walk on roads of nightmares. Not just any nightmares, though. Nightmares of old. We're talking about things that have existed long before the current mainstream consciousness. Things that are long forgotten to who we are today. It says, great towers rise in the macabre majesty of it, and the human horrors are turned to wisdom, the things that we do not see. There are archaic splendors here, and a desolate greatness ruled by a horrendous grand design. The universe, our universe, is so far away from us at this moment. It says that there's hidden fears and ancient dementia here. I think that's an interesting phrase. It says that seeing all of this, being in the presence of it, corrodes your conscience, your hope, and your pitiful human ways. That there is a knowledge here, a learning of your own doom, of your own final journey. It leads to a lack of sanity, falling in the eternal dark, a tomb of timeless essence, lurking for sanity within this chamber of sleeping power. Knowledge now embraces your soul, and you are trapped in this abomination. Yeah, okay. Like I said, different direction, but same idea, cosmic scope. Knowledge. I kind of took it to more of a rooted human level. They went to the fourth dimensional level. It's cool. The music, I think, works both ways, but certainly works well with theirs. Like I had mentioned, definitely bringing in the heavier elements at the end of the track. That lines up with the vocals, with the lyrics. Much better than my interpretation. Heavy track, but neat. These are just my thoughts, though. On INANNA's Beyond Time and Memory, what did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said, or maybe correct me on? Do you have your own interpretation of this song, or do you just agree with what I said? Let me know. Put all that stuff, as well as any other thoughts you might have, down into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link for Linktree. It'll take you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.